The girl I liked had a boyfriend who gambled and mistreated her, but she was adamant that he was a good man. She eventually got tired of me defending her, accusing me of spreading discord and saying that I disgusted her. She then begged me to return like crazy. One of Anna's hands had been beaten by her boyfriend Ryan once more, and when she came to me in tears, I rolled up my sleeves and was about to confront him, but she stopped me. I was both heartbroken and frustrated. Anna sobbed uncontrollably, revealing the marks on her neck. But when he's sober, he treats me well. Take a look at this bracelet he got me for my birthday, and he even prepares meals for me. I looked at the bracelet. It was inexpensive, and I couldn't understand why the cooking was just instant noodles with 1 egg added. Anna came from a wealthy family. Her parents lavished her with love and provided her with the greatest education. Over the years, I also treated her well, but her seduction by a decent porno man had the potential to drive her insane. This is what you call being kind to you, Anna. Wake up. What the hell is so great about that scumbag? She defended him, and you don't realize that he's not like us. I wanted to give her some common sense by giving her a useless bracelet and a half-hearted bowl of noodles. Despite growing up in poverty, following his parents' divorce as a small child, his heart remains pure and devoid of love. When her phone rang and the caller ID displayed Ryan's name, Anna's expression changed to one of someone else, with a gentle smile spreading across her face. She was upset with me for making fun of Ryan. Ryan, the person on the other end of the line, had a terrible tone. "Don't be upset, Anna. Are you seeing Henry Miller again? I'm only here to get something from Henry, and he will promptly depart, disregarding my objections." Anna got to her feet and began to walk away. Just then, Mrs. Hand, Anna's mother, showed up, followed by 2 more people. Mom was momentarily taken aback by Anna. Mrs. Hand's expression was stern, and she turned to glare at me right away. "Did you tell my mother, Henry Miller, that I had no other option because Anna wouldn't listen to me?" I had to call her mother. When Mrs. Hand noticed the marks on Anna's neck, her face went white and she yelled, "That's your boyfriend's work, right? I'm calling the police and getting him arrested." "I beg you, don't call the police," Anna cried out in desperation, nearly kneeling in front of her mother. "I accidentally hurt myself, and it has nothing to do with Ryan. Going forward, you will return home, and I will reclaim the house I gave you." After Anna left, I was furious and got into my car to find Ryan. When I found him, he was drinking with some friends at a street-side barbecue stand. I grabbed him by the collar and yelled, "What the hell is wrong with you? How dare you lay a hand on her? Are you even a man?" Ryan smirked and said, "Lay a hand on her? What do you mean by that?" He shoved his phone in my face and opened a video. His indifferent attitude only made me more irate. In the video, Anna was kneeling on the floor, her long hair being pulled violently, her head tilted back, her eyes dazed, her voice broken, and her body swaying with each vicious pull. I felt like my breath was being ripped away. Ryan grinned and patted my lifeless face before leaning in close to my ear and saying, "People like you who are always cautious and submissive are boring to her. See, she loves it when I lay my hands on her in your eyes. She's a goddess, but to me, she's just a horny haha." His thug friends laughed heartily, and I was furious and immediately wanted to punch him. As I moved his underlings, Ryan dodged a little, and my fist grazed his nose. The beating stopped when Ryan coughed. "What's going on? Why are you bleeding?" It was Anna, and even Mrs. Hand couldn't stop her. I found myself outnumbered, my fists unable to withstand the force, and before I knew it, I was on the ground, clutching my head as I took blow after blow. "Henry Miller threatened to kill me for you," Ryan said sarcastically as he wiped his nose. After frantically grabbing tissues to stop his bleeding, Anna eventually noticed me. She didn't attempt to assist me. Instead, she simply held Ryan and gazed down at me as I lay motionless on the ground. How often must I reiterate that my relationship with Ryan is none of your business? I'm no longer a child, so why does everyone keep getting in the way of my romantic life? This is the third time Ryan has pursued me, and he intentionally bit Anna's ear to show me how loving they were, sweetie. I don't know if my nose is broken, but it hurts, and I'm so sick of this. Ugh. After gently reassuring him that she would take him to the hospital, Anna turned back to face me. Her look was filled with disgust, Henry. What else do you do besides cause trouble? Who do you think you are? Your carelessness sickens me. Did you hear that Anna finds you repulsive? Ryan smiled. Become disoriented. My rage reached a fever pitch, and I rushed at Ryan, snatching his neck. My only thought for the day was, I'm going to kill him. I woke up in a hospital room after Anna screamed helplessly and tried to pull my arms away from him. Without hesitation, she grabbed a beer bottle from nearby and swung it hard against my head before I passed out. Anna's parents were present, as were my parents. When Mrs. Hand noticed that I was awake, her eyes turned red. She sighed in relief, grateful that Henry was okay. Mr. Hand turned to my parents, looking glum, and said, I'm sorry, Mr. Miller. Mrs. Miller, I would have killed my ungrateful daughter if anything had happened to Henry, and my mother, who was worried about me, couldn't help but be resentful. If Anna weren't your daughter, I would have called the police right away. My dad cleared his throat, and my mom fell silent. Mr. Hand was so embarrassed that he couldn't even look up. You've seen it. Henry has done everything for Anna over the years. He's given her nothing but the best. I honestly don't understand what kind of hatred makes someone treat him like this. Mr. Miller, Mrs. Miller is correct. It's all Anna's fault. After the incident, she fled with that scum and refused to even return our calls. Don't worry, though. Once I track her down, she will return and apologize to Henry, Mr. Hand. It's okay. I won't be involved with Anna anymore. Whether she apologized or not, it didn't matter. Everyone looked at me in shock and couldn't comprehend that we had been childhood sweethearts. She was like a son to me and an indispensable part of my life, and I had always supported her, putting up with all of her whims and mistakes. My mom was shocked. Henry, are you serious? I was even surprised because I had known Anna for 20 years and loved her for 10, but it felt like someone had hit the delete button and all of my feelings for her disappeared. Now, whenever I thought of Anna, I felt nothing. She was a stranger to me. Everyone looked at me but said nothing, assuming I wasn't completely awake yet. After my release from the hospital, my mother promptly called a doctor to check on me, and Mr. Hand brought Anna along. Mr. Hand dragged Anna to her feet, where she reluctantly stood before me. How could I have brought up such an unappreciative, careless daughter to apologize to Henry? Anna's eyes were red, and her face was slightly swollen from crying only moments ago. This sight would have broken my heart in the past, but now I felt nothing. She defiantly lifted her chin and retorted, If I hadn't stopped you, Ryan would have been the one hurt, not Mr. Hand. I stared at her quietly, knowing that she owed me an apology regardless of her actions. I'm so angry that I'm screaming, Ryan, don't even bring up that jerk with me. Will you apologize, or will it break your legs? I shook my head silently. Anna remained unyielding and engrossed in her fantasy. Mr. Hand, I've already told you that this is unnecessary, so I turned to my mother and said, Let's go, without looking back at Anna. As we were leaving, I heard Anna mumbling behind me, but I didn't answer. Henry has never held anything against me, no matter what I've done. Yes, for as long as I can remember. Everyone around us believed that if Anna ever stabbed me with a knife, I would be more concerned about whether her hands would get blood on them than about my injuries. But just as my M and I were leaving, I heard Anna mumbling. There was a loud slap. It will act as though I don't have a daughter if you don't break up with that scum, so don't even recognize me as your daughter. I turned to see Anna clutching her face in tears and saying, You hit me, I'm hitting you, useless daughter. That same day, Anna moved in with Ryan after running off in tears. I had previously put my plans to study abroad on hold to be by Anna's side, but now that I was ready to start over and focus on my future, I immersed myself in getting prepared for my studies and all the paperwork. One day, Anna unexpectedly called me and requested a $300,000 loan. Mr. and Miss Hand were furious, cursing their misfortune as their home fell into chaos, but none of that mattered to me anymore. She spoke so entitledly when she said, "Henry, my dad froze all my cards and I have no money right now. You have to help me." I could give her $300,000, of course, but why should I lend it to her? I said icily, "Aren't you living with Ryan now? Let him support you." Anna didn't notice the detached tone in my voice, so I continued to explain carefully. Ryan got scammed out of $100,000 at the casino. I'm planning to help him pay it back, and I want to redecorate his place. It's so old and uncomfortable to live in scammed out of $100,000. It was just another lost bet at the casino. Only someone as deluded as Anna could believe Ryan's lies. I refused her flatly. "No, I can't lend you any money." Anna was stunned. "Have your cards been frozen too?" I found it amusing. I had already made my stance clear, and she still didn't understand. Of course she couldn't. How could she? I had always cherished her, taken care of her, and she could never imagine that one day I wouldn't love her anymore. In her mind, Henry, would always be there, playing the role of a humble, submissive suitor at her beck and call available whenever she needed. I'm saying, "I'm not anyone to you. I don't want to lend you this money." There was a long silence on the other end of the phone. After a while, Anna suddenly let out a cold laugh. Then the call ended. I knew exactly what she was thinking. She was certain that I would be the one to cave, because that's how it had always been before. But this time she was going to be disappointed, as I was applying for my visa. I accidentally bumped into a girl, and both of us dropped our papers. I quickly apologized and bent down to help pick them up, only to realize that she was going to the same university as I was. I looked up in surprise. "You're going to that school too." That's when I took a proper look at her, and I froze for a moment. She was beautiful. Although Anna had always been attractive, this girl was even more so. She looked at my papers and then grinned slightly. What a coincidence that when I smiled a year below her, Becky, who was attending the same university, also had two tiny dimples popping up at the corners of her mouth. After a long time of talking about our alma mater, Becky suggested that we have lunch together. We're going to the same school, so I agreed and said, "I hope you'll take care of me in the future." She chose a fancy restaurant, and as we parked and were ready to enter, I heard a familiar voice from behind. I sighed in shock, wondering what the odds were. "Ryan, I haven't eaten at a fancy restaurant in a long time, so let's go here today, Anna. It's pricey, but if you obey, we'll get your SL meal back. You can ask your parents to reinstate your credit card, and I don't mind if you eat 100 meals. Without saying anything, I rolled my eyes. Anna and Ryan were standing a few meters behind us, and as soon as I turned around, they saw me too. Ryan glanced at me before focusing on Becky, and I could tell right away what he was thinking because he was a man. Anna blurted out Becky as I abruptly moved in front of her. Becky gave a small smile. "Anna, I couldn't believe you two knew each other." I didn't remember much about Becky until I realized that whenever Anna was around, I was always focused on her and never bothered to notice anyone else. Becky laughed and explained that we were both in the dance club, so, of course, we knew each other. The dance club at University ID regularly attended Anna's club performances. Anna sulked and grumbled. "Are you still upset with me, Henry? You've been ignoring me for days." My tone was informal, saying, "I've just been busy. If there's nothing else, we're going to eat," because I couldn't bring myself to interact with her. Naturally, the "we" was referring to Becky and me. Immediately, Anna's expression soured, and she glanced at Becky with a hint of annoyance. "Tell me, is this sudden change due to her?" I had reached my limit. Even though I was once willing to be your pursuer, Anna, she didn't take the last time she smashed a bottle on my head seriously. The life of a pursuer is also a life of ignoring others because I'm tired, and it has nothing to do with anyone else. When Anna heard it, she became even more irate. Do you understand what you're saying, Henry? I'm Anna, and I grew up with you. You claim to be annoyed with me, but I know her personality well enough to know that when she gets naughty, she won't care about anything. To my surprise, Anna grabbed Becky's sleeve. You're not leaving, and you should also explain it to me. Henry, you are so shameless that you would even lend me $300,000, and now you're talking to me like this. What do you mean by that, Becky? Becky hadn't even had a chance to respond, but I was already feeling embarrassed because I had always thought of Anna as a childhood friend, and never thought anything she did was too much. But today she had completely lost it. If you're backslashing, Reich, just go home with your useless trash boyfriend, and don't embarrass yourself out here. Anna froze at my shout, her big eyes filled with disbelief, and then tears welled up. She struggled to believe that this was the first time I had ever said anything like this to her in our years together. She stared at me with eyes full of resentment and anger. Just as the tension between Ryan and me was about to escalate once more, Becky unexpectedly burst into a light laugh. All eyes turned to her, and her voice was soft and almost gentle. If you can't even satisfy your girlfriend by taking her to a nice restaurant, you can backtrack and call yourself a decent boyfriend. Ryan finally managed to tear his lecherous eyes away from Becky. Who are you calling trash? I, am calling you. When Anna saw her beloved man looking like he wanted to crawl into the ground, she almost lost her mind. Her brows shot up in anger, and she put her hands on her hips and yelled, "What do you know? Who are you to talk about my boyfriend?" I had to admit that her words had a powerful impact. Ryan, the shameless jerk, actually flushed red. How low can you go, Becky? Her foul mouth made her already gorgeous features twist in a nearly grotesque way. First, you seduced Henry and caused friction between us. Now, you're backstabbing and embarrassing my boyfriend. I couldn't help but wonder what it was about her that I had always found appealing. Unaware of the people gathered around us, Anna's voice grew louder and louder. My boyfriend may not have money now, but that doesn't mean that. The loud crack of a slap sounded through the air, startling everyone. Anna staggered back, falling awkwardly onto the ground. Ryan pointed at her angrily, saying, "Shut your mouth." If I recall correctly, this was the first time Ryan had slapped her while sober, let alone in front of a crowd. Anna was still holding her face and appeared too shocked to even cry, as she looked at Ryan in a daze. Now that she had no justification to defend him, standing next to you is such a disgrace. After spitting those words out, Ryan pivoted on his heel and walked away, utterly disregarding Anna, who was still sitting on the ground. When Anna saw him leave, she clenched her teeth and started crying. I took Becky and escorted her into the restaurant, saying I was sorry for everything, even though I was to blame. As a result, she received verbal abuse from me. I was friends with Anna as a child, but we have some unpleasant things in common, Henry. Becky cut me off. Does Anna like you? I nearly choked on my spit. How could she be in love with her boyfriend Ryan? She seemed to sacrifice everything for him, even going so far as to try to harm me. Before I could respond, Becky said, "Anyway, let's not talk about her, let's eat." I was okay with that because otherwise I wouldn't even know where to start. When it came to Anna, however, I was surprised to see that she was still standing by the door when we came out. She quickly got up when she saw me. Becky laughed lightly, but it was obvious that she was upset seeing you and me together for whatever reason. Since the girl's emotional intelligence wasn't poor, Becky saw and spoke up first. Henry will now leave. I apologized to her before she left, and it was for the best. Perhaps I could finally speak with Anna about that. After Becky left, Anna put her arm around me and swayed, her eyes red. When she came to me for comfort, I was always there and open to her. But that version of Henry was long gone. The Henry who had loved Anna for 10 years had disappeared under my icy stare. She spoke in a low, soft tone, the same one she consistently employed when she felt upset following her parents' reprimands. Anna began to feel uncomfortable. "Henry, I understand that you are still upset with me because I ignored you and hurt you for Ryan. Please don't be upset this time. Instead, let me be the one to apologize. I'll admit that I was too harsh that day when I saw you strangling Ryan, and I was so terrified that I didn't back down at all. Please don't ignore me, okay? Ryan treats me like this, and now that I'm not there to provide warmth and comfort, she feels like something's missing." I corrected her, saying that I'm not like your boyfriend, and whether you and Ryan argue for an hour or a day is none of my business, but he'll tell you this. He'll never again run after someone who is pushing me away after hearing that Anna panicked. Don't do this, Henry. You're giving me the impression that I don't know you anymore. Remember how you said you wouldn't need me by your side? I irritate you, I cause trouble, and I disgust you. No, that was just my anger. I truly can't live without you. I firmly refused by shaking my head. I've just realized that Ryan and I aren't a good fit, and as you said, he doesn't respect me at all. He will never apologize for his unacceptable behavior again, and I won't even speak to him. I apologized, but it's difficult to believe you, given that I didn't believe her. Anna's attitude abruptly hardened. I watched as Anna called Ryan's number. "Ryan, you're a jerk and a piece of garbage who assaults women." She quickly hung up the phone, saying, "I'm officially telling you that we're done. Go to hell with that. I'm leaving everything at his place, moving it out today, and he won't see Ryan ever again. Henry, I'm listening to you now, and since it will be far from him, is it possible for us to return to our previous state?" When Ryan hit Anna, I was more perplexed than ever because, even in cases worse than this, she refused to criticize him, much less end their relationship. It didn't make sense. I remembered Becky's previous statement. "Does Anna like you?" Anna's mad. She'd long assumed that I would always be the one to protect and spoil her, so I scowled and said, "It couldn't be after 10 years of chasing her, and getting nothing now that I wasn't chasing her. How could she suddenly like me at most? Congratulations if you ended things with him, but for now, let's just be regular friends." Anna froze, unable to speak again, and I left after I said something. This time, Anna took the situation seriously. She went home, apologized to her parents, removed all her pictures of Ryan from social media, and posted a single statement at the end. The statement read, "Some loves might be wrong, but the bond we've shared since childhood is the truest. It'll find what belongs to me again because it was always meant for me." Perhaps this was a bit too dramatic. On my birthday, Becky called me Henry and said, "Happy birthday." I was a little surprised because I had seen her send me lengthy messages about our memories almost every other day, day or night. "How did you know?" "Thanks. Do you have plans today?" I sincerely replied, "No, that's fine." On the previous occasion, I intended to take you out to dinner, but you ended up paying. Therefore, I propose that you allow me to take care of it this time. I almost said no, but Becky persisted, first saying that a girl's invitation couldn't be turned down, then saying that I had to look out for her when she went abroad. However, I ultimately consented to be honest, as I believe I've only ever engaged in a heart-to-heart conversation with Anna. Becky was like an old friend to me, someone I could talk to without feeling awkward. We talked about philosophy, music, games, and childhood memories, and she seemed to understand me better than ever. When I dropped Becky off at her place, I thanked her sincerely, and she mysteriously took out a beautifully wrapped gift from her bag. Hours had passed, and I hadn't felt truly happy since Anna got together with Ryan a year ago. I smiled and said, "This is for you, Henry, but don't open it yet. Wait until you get home." When I got home, I was shocked to see Anna sitting on my couch wearing my shirt, watching TV. I had been waiting for you, and she pretended that everything was fine. She left me stunned. Anna always knew my door lock code, so she could come over whenever she wanted. After Ryan hit her for the first time, she came to me and cried all night. I remember being so angry that I nearly wanted to kill that jerk. That same night, I went to find Ryan and beat him up. But the following morning, while I was still in the hospital getting dressed, she was already on the phone with Ryan and returned to him without telling me. That was the first time I ever felt like a complete fool for making such a big effort for her. Happy 25th birthday to my con. Anna skipped over to the dining table, her eyes sparkling. I was called over excitedly by Henry, who always called me her KN shed. She once said that I was her knight protecting her, and that she was a princess. Anna either didn't see or pretended not to see the frustration and displeasure on my face as she called me over. I put down the gift Becky gave me and stood motionless in the shadow of the entrance. Anna didn't seem to hear me. She found a lighter, lit the candles on the cake, and said, "Hurry up and make a wish." "You don't have to do this." So I couldn't see her expression. Anna, who had just seemed so happy, suddenly snapped, throwing the lighter to the ground with a loud enough crash. She whirled around, and I noticed for the first time that tears were streaming down her face. She let out all of her pent-up emotions by yelling at me in an upset voice. "You used to be different. You never would have ignored me, said harsh things, or treated me like a stranger. Why is she crying uncontrollably now? I'm sorry, but we really can't go back. Henry, I had a failed relationship. I didn't listen to you when I should have, and now I'm not okay either. On one side, I have my boyfriend, and on the other, I have my childhood friend. What should I do if you're still upset about me hitting you? You weren't at home all afternoon. You were with Becky, correct?" Anna stopped crying, her eyes now filled with hate. "I don't think you like her. Aside from the fact that she looks nice, I don't think she has anything better than me." My headache was getting worse, and I didn't have the energy to deal with her anymore, so I asked her to leave. "This is a personal matter, and I don't need to report it to you. I'm going to rest now." Anna repeatedly nodded before rambling once more. "I understand that you are now retaliating against me because you never liked being with Ryan. Now that you are with Becky, you are doing the same thing to retaliate against me," which left me stunned once more. "Henry, I want to let you know that if you continue to act aloof, I will not be giving you another chance." It turned out that she was the one giving me chances all along, so I smiled and said, "Thank you. I don't need that chance." Anna was so furious that she was unable to speak, and she finally stormed out in frustration, but she stopped as she got to the door. "Henry, what's your problem? You constantly criticize Ryan, but at least when he owns up to his mistakes, it's sincere. He calls me every day to apologize and sends me gifts to make me feel better. You said you'd always pamper and care for me, but I'll prove my decision was right one day." I just stood there dumbfounded after Anna's outburst, and I forgot about Becky's gift that I had left on the entryway shelf. However, Anna did get back together with Ryan. She had another major argument with her parents, and after that, she moved out of their home, causing her mom's heart to flare up again from stress. I didn't understand, but I was shocked, so I let her do whatever she wanted as I left to study abroad. As Drew got closer, I started talking to Becky more about studying abroad, and before I knew it, we were talking about college life. When I first started college, I was on the verge of depression when she casually said, "No way, you're such a pretty girl. You should be confident and cheerful." I was genuinely surprised when she said that, and she suddenly changed the subject to, "You haven't opened your gift yet." But before I could ask, she just laughed and wished me a wonderful night. I was about to open the gift when my mom called, and since Anna and I lived in the same neighborhood, it wasn't difficult for news to spread, and sometimes you couldn't avoid hearing it even if you tried. According to my mother, Anna brought Ryan home while she was pregnant to use the child to coerce the Hand couple into accepting Ryan or reactivating Anna's credit card. These two had the gall to use the baby as leverage and knock on their door after the Hand family had already lost face due to Mr. Hand not being easily intimidated. He declared right away that he would kill Ryan. Before she went, Mr. Hand yelled at them to go, but he couldn't bring himself to hit them. Anna insisted on giving the baby a name when she announced her intention to register for marriage. When the baby was born, Mrs. Hand almost fainted from sobbing, so Mr. Hand had the maid forcibly push them out with a broom. My mother moaned over the phone. What kind of crap has that thug lover filled Anna's mind with? She was once such a well-behaved, smart youngster. Her unwed pregnancy has destroyed the Hand family's reputation. Maybe, in Anna's mind, Ryan was like the rebellious, carefree hero from a TV drama. They were supposed to overcome all obstacles, live happily ever after, and break free from society's constraints. I could accept that she didn't love me and fell in love with someone else, but she had wasted her best years for a jerk, cut off her relationship with her parents, destroyed her future, and now spent her days speeding around drinking and being his babysitter. Now that she was pregnant, my mom's call had interrupted my thoughts, and I had forgotten about Becky's gift once more. With just a few days left before I left to study abroad, my mom came over to help me pack. Oh, she sighed. "Even though you're this old and have been obsessed with Anna for a long time, you've never been in a committed relationship, and now you're traveling overseas." I didn't answer my phone while browsing through videos, so when Becky's video call came through, I hurried into my bedroom, making sure to shut the door behind me. "I have to take care of something, Henry, but my car broke down today. Would you be able to drive me?" Our relationship had gotten much more casual by this point, so I smiled and said, "I'm at the hospital. I just saw a friend. You can come pick me up here." I hung up, only to see my mother giving me that teasing smile. "When did you arrive?" "Why didn't you knock on Eve's door? That's not very courteous, Henry. Who were you video chatting with?" I sighed, "Just a friend." "I knocked when I first arrived, but you didn't hear me. How am I to blame for that?" I couldn't avoid her questions and had to grudgingly tell her the truth. My mother nodded several times before I left, and she gave me one more piece of advice. "Let's get serious. When did you meet this girl? What does she do? How old is she? This girl seems amazing, so you should take advantage of the chance." That's precisely what I was thinking when I got to the hospital and was waiting for Becky in the lobby. Suddenly, there was a commotion behind me, as some medical staff pushed an emergency bed forward, and the crowd immediately moved aside to make room for them as they yelled, "The patient is bleeding badly and needs immediate surgery." When I finally saw who was on the bed, I realized it was Anna. Anna's face was extremely pale, and the agony had squeezed her eyes shut. I couldn't believe she was bleeding, and I couldn't see where Ryan was. They took her to the operating room for emergency surgery before I could fully understand the situation. "Henry, what are you looking at?" I turned to see Becky standing behind me. Her expression darkened when she learned about Anna. "And you should contact her parents right now." As the poor couple stood outside the operating room, their eyes red and looking at least 10 years older, I nodded. This was no small matter. Her family needed to be here. Just as they were beginning to recover from the drama of their daughter's pregnancy, the doctor brought out a critical condition notice for the family to sign. Mr. Hand grimaced and signed the notice, while Miss Hand's hand burst into uncontrollable tears. "Damn Ryan, he's ruined my daughter's life." I held her up so she wouldn't collapse, and she clung to me. "Henry, why isn't Anna with you? She's such a lovely kid, you wouldn't have allowed her to go through all of this or have come to this point. When Anna woke up, I wasn't sure if it was out of stubborn pride, but at first she refused to say anything until Mrs. Hand cried and pressed her, and Anna told us what happened, as expected, that scumbag. Anna's blood loss left me speechless, and I was uncertain about the completion date of the surgery, so I instructed Becky to return. She thoughtfully bought us some food and water before leaving, and we must have waited for hours until the doctor finally emerged to declare that Anna was safe. Ryan appeared to be a good guy, while Anna had money to spend on him, but now that she was broke, his true nature was exposed, and he spent his days drinking, gambling, and having affairs with other women. After telling us all of this, Anna finally broke down in tears, realizing that Ryan wasn't even compensating her for the countless hours she had spent cooking, cleaning, and taking care of the house. They had another disagreement that morning, and Ryan became aggressive. "I should not have ignored you, Henry. Ryan is a complete liar and a jerk." As she sobbed hysterically until she was a shaking wreck, Mrs. Hand listened. "Anna, please stop arguing with me and your father. We are growing too old to withstand this type of shock. Come home." Mr. Hand clenched his teeth in rage, saying, "I will never forgive that bastard." But Anna didn't respond to her parents. Instead, she was just staring at me. Now that I realized that being with Ryan was a mistake from the start, I thought I was different and that I could change him. But he's a jerk, and everything you said to me before was true. Anna's voice became more frantic as she sobbed uncontrollably while I was unconscious. "I dreamed we were kids playing a game where you were the bride and groom. You assured me that you would always protect me, make me happy, and make me smile." Of course, I remembered, but what was the point of talking about it? I sighed and said, "You should take a break. Please refrain from contemplating these matters. Henry, I implore you not to depart. I'm afraid that if you leave, you'll never return. I know I made a mistake, but I'm pleading with you. Can we return to our previous state? I don't want anyone to insult or hurt you anymore." Anna tried to sit up abruptly, as if she were desperate, but her parents quickly pushed her back down. A nurse arrived at the door as the sobbing became more intense. The patient had just had surgery. Her family should make sure she remains calm. I was forced to respond, "Let's not talk about this right now. We'll talk after you're discharged. Henry, don't leave now. It will look after you and protect you. Please don't abandon me. I beg you." I hurried out of the room after Anna even attempted to get out of bed to follow me, and when I got outside, I was shocked to see Becky standing at the door. "Becky, when did you get here recently? How is Anna?" I shook my head, thinking you probably heard everything she said. After a while, she seemed to find the courage to talk to Henry about studying abroad in a few days. "Are you still going?" I could hear the hesitation and worry in her voice, and I couldn't help but laugh. Why would you even ask that? My comments appeared to ease Becky's stiff shoulders, and then she passed out in rage. "Why must you call me foolish, Henry? I believe you are the foolish one. By the way, you still haven't opened the birthday present I gave you, have you?" "Oh," she reminded me that I nearly forgot when I took a small crystal ball out of my pocket. Becky's eyes brightened. "So you opened it." I was curious about the whereabouts of my crystal ball, only to find it in your possession. "It's not my fault, though, because you forgot about it." I grinned when I realized that this was a gift I had previously given Becky, and that she was returning it to me. It was 20-year-old Henry giving it to 19-year-old Becky. I was so depressed at the time that I thought I might be going into depression every day. I had to hide behind the library and cry for hours on end, because I liked learning French words there, and you kept bugging me for days. I became frustrated and retaliated by saying that I didn't understand why someone would cry every day. "Henry, you may not be effective at consoling, but there is one thing you said that I will never forget. If I found my son, perhaps the darkness in life would go away. Then you gave me a gift, saying it was a gift, with the stipulation that I wouldn't bother you while you were learning French words. I tried to comfort you later, but you even said you looked too ugly when crying and told me not to watch, which is why I didn't remember much. I couldn't help but laugh aloud because it was incredible how fate had brought Becky and me together 5 years ago. Though I thought relationships would always be hard for me, fate wasn't cruel. My mom informed me that Anna was fine and just needed some rest, and Ryan, that piece of scum, had returned to make his presence known. He even had the gall to threaten to post their private videos online if she didn't pay him $500,000. Naturally, this all happened after I left for my studies abroad. On the day Becky and I were leaving, Anna showed up at the airport. Mrs. Hand was inconsolable, saying, "If she couldn't see you, she's driving me crazy." Ryan walked straight into his death, and even after the police were called and a lawsuit was filed, he insisted on seeing Anna before Ryan was sent to jail. My mom's feeble signal to me to watch Anna and not to irritate her said, "I need to talk to Henry alone." Anna was still healing and appeared pale and frail, with her petite figure enveloped in an oversized coat. Becky nodded in understanding. "Are you going to leave?" "Yes. If I told you that I would accompany you and support you through everything, could we?" Anna began crying uncontrollably, tears streaming down her cheeks. "We both need to move on from the past, Anna." She shook her head and held her mouth, and I could tell she truly regretted wanting to be with me. I had to take another girl's hand and start a new life because our love was genuine, but so was the love that left. She ought to start a new life of her own before the security checkpoint. After a few minutes of chatting, Anna stopped crying and just stared at me blankly. When I asked Becky on the plane what she had said to Anna, she smiled. "It's top secret." Anna was still clinging to my arm, refusing to let me go. Becky said, "Try to talk to her." The side story of Becky. I fell for a guy when I was 19 years old, but he liked another girl. I heard they were childhood sweethearts, so I joined the dance club so I could see him more frequently. Unfortunately, I discovered he truly loved her, even though I was just a stranger to him and his eyes could never see me. I tried everything I could to find out about his life after graduation, particularly when I heard he was going to study abroad in the UK. I was overjoyed. Since I still hadn't moved on from him after 5 years, I decided to give myself another shot. I quit my job and applied to the same university I waited where the visa applications were handled intentionally, running into him. Perhaps the gears of fate began to turn from that story about the crystal ball, a crystal ball no bigger than half a palm. Yet it contained an entire solar system with countless shining stars, bearing witness to the Earth's unwavering devotion to the sun. I thought I had no chance left. Turns out fate hadn't been unkind to me at the airport. I asked Anna, "Do you love Henry, though?" Weak, she glared, stared at me with hostility. "Of course we grew up together." "What do you know?" "No, are you in love with the feeling he gives you? Or do you actually love him as a person?" She was about to argue, but I didn't give her the chance in your junior year when Henry sprained his ankle playing basketball. You ignore him for a whole week just because he couldn't go with you to an out-of-town concert when you graduated. Henry wanted to study abroad with you, but you didn't want to go and kept dragging your feet making sure he couldn't leave. When you first started dating, you continued to provoke him despite knowing that it was painful for him to see you with someone else. Even when he defended you, you made sure he was left sick and bruised because he had a stomach ailment. During seasonal changes, he experiences headaches, throat pains, and diarrhea from cold coffee. He treats you like a princess, but in my opinion, you're just a very self-centered person who is only interested in your feelings, happiness, sadness, anger, and joy. Did you ever know any of this? You often discuss your childhood sweethearts, but have you ever truly cared for them? Have you ever paid attention to the little things? Are you willing to put in the time necessary to understand him? Anna glanced at Henry in disbelief, so I told him that was all I needed to do. Henry asked me what I told Anna, but I didn't tell him since the amazing vista spread out in front of us at 10,000 meters above sea level. Through my headphones, I could hear Avril Lavigne's lovely yet edgy voice as Henry and I entwined our fingers. "You're out, Anna.